This weekend, there are some very important series being played with conference titles on the line. One of the most important ones, I'd say, is number 21 UCLA going to number 3 Oregon State. If Oregon State wins the series, they probably will win the conference unless Stanford can sweep USC. While UCLA sits at 62 in the RPI, even though they're ranked, that's not a great place to be, so it would be very beneficial for them to at least get a win, if not a series win, for the conference standings and for where they sit in the RPI down the stretch.
Yeah, very fortunate for them to close out the year on the road at Oregon State, who has a very high RPI. So definitely beneficial. But yeah, with that RPI down in the 60s right now, you hope to at least win one game, hopefully climb back into the 40s at least. The committee does tend to give the West Coast teams a little bit of a break in the RPI, given the competition on the West Coast, harder to find teams to play in midweeks and stuff like that. But we do believe UCLA is a high caliber squad and definitely has the potential to win this series. And this could shake up things in the Pac-12 standings, like you mentioned.
Yeah, UCLA's pitching staff can compete with the best of them, and they will have to this weekend to be able to snag some wins against this Oregon State team, whose pitching staff has been essentially dominant most of the year, besides a few blips here and there. But the pitching staff combined with pretty effective hitters for Oregon State is scary to any team, and especially going to Oregon State is a scary and hard feat to get some wins there. But
Definitely.
another amazing series we can jump to is number 8 Notre Dame at number 11 Miami. Very big series for both teams, not only in the conference, but for figuring out where really the teams settle in the top 10, in the top 15, where they're going to land. Even though we have Notre Dame at number 8 right now, it just doesn't feel like they're really a top tier team at the moment. So a win on the road against Miami would be a great time to prove that they deserve that rank, and would definitely jump up a few spots if they could get that done. And Miami has had recent struggles. They all have been on the road, so they've been a very, very good team at home. But to stay in the conversation to host a super regional, they need to prove that they are a team to compete for that spot and then take out Notre Dame here.
Yeah, a common theme with these last couple upcoming series, we have a lot of highly touted ranked matchups with teams vying for position and seeding in their conferences, as well as trying to battle for top 8 seeds or just a host in general. And like you mentioned, Miami has struggled on the road recently, trying to get back on track at home here against Notre Dame. This seems like a type of series that could potentially decide a top 8 seed there. Yeah, it should be a great weekend. Both good pitching staffs. Could be another low scoring weekend here, but yeah, a lot of implications here as far as ACC standings heading into that tournament, as well as for the NCAA postseason in general.
Yeah, and then staying in the ACC for another matchup that could potentially settle things a little bit is number 14 Virginia at number 16 Louisville. Both have played similar competition with facing Virginia Tech in the back-to-back weeks. Virginia facing them 2 weekends ago, and Louisville facing them last week. So both of them get beat by Virginia Tech. So obviously Va-Tech has separated themselves a bit there. But to kind of settle into that potential number 3 spot in the conference is Virginia and Louisville, both kind of vying for that spot, and they're in a similar boat. So whoever can win this series is definitely in a good spot in the ACC and for hosting a regional.
Yeah, definitely. I think both of these teams have a Omaha caliber ceiling when they're playing well, and given where they're currently ranked, I think the winner of this series probably locks up hosting in the postseason. With depending on how the winner does in the ACC tourney, could potentially sneak into a top 8 seed. but I really do think this series has high implications on who will host come postseason.
Yeah, there's a lot on the table for both of these teams if they can play well. But another great matchup. Pretty much all of these all of these games that we're going through are very very important for all teams involved. But number 9 Gonzaga at San Diego, 1-2 in the WCC. So huge series for both teams. Probably more important for Gonzaga just because they have more on the line at this point. But looks like San Diego, probably a regional team as it stands. So if they can get one from Gonzaga, that's probably enough. But Gonzaga has the chance to host at this point if they can do well and things go to plan. But it's a very important series for both teams here.
Yeah, I would almost argue more important for San Diego. They actually could technically win the conference with a sweep here. Hard to see that happening, but certainly could. And like you mentioned, the RPI is pretty low right now, sitting at 46. Probably need at least one win to get above 40 there and really secure a spot in a regional. So that's why I'd almost lean on the San Diego side there, as they're really trying to lock in the WCC as a two-bid league and get their way into a regional.
Yeah, last year it was they were one game away, or at least that's what they say is their motto this year. One game better than last year, and it's a prove it series right now. Can they get that one win? And I think that's probably enough to get them in a great spot to be in a regional. But we'll see. It's going to be tough down the stretch for them, especially against this Gonzaga team that is always prepared and always a hard team to face on the weekend. Definitely harder than when they face midweek series, but very, very important for both teams. Another great series, number 22 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt. Both teams kind of going in opposite directions right now, but who really knows with LSU? 1 week they're up, 1 week they're down. I mean, it's just inconsistencies all over the place. But now that they just lost or got swept this past week, they'll probably sweep Vanderbilt this weekend and have us rethink everything.
Yeah, definitely some high implications in this series as well. Vandy right now looking like they could be a top 8 seed with that number 3 RPI and building up the quality series wins right now, but it certainly would help them to win another high profile series here. As for LSU, like I mentioned earlier, probably need to win this series and do very well in the SEC tournament in order to get back into hosting contention. Just given the inconsistencies they've had as of late, the resume just isn't ultra impressive with how many losses they've had, but they do have some high level wins as well. So, I mean, I do think this series is pretty much just a toss up, both extremely talented teams that we expected to be in the top 10 this year. And yeah, should be a extremely entertaining series to cap the regular season before the SEC tourney.
Yeah, and staying in the SEC, we have number 5 Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Ole Miss now looking like they're in a pretty good spot to be in a regional after just having an awful season pretty much prior to these past 2 weekends where they swept both teams that they faced. So in a good spot to make the postseason, but this is definitely a heat check for them against a very good Texas A&M that is one of the hottest teams in the nation as of recent.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what we get out of Ole Miss here. They sort of had a freebie series against Missouri, although it was still impressive they swept, but Missouri is sort of the runt of SEC baseball. But then Ole Miss followed it up with an impressive sweep on the road at LSU. So I'd love to see them prove it again here against Texas A&M, a team that looks like they could be a top 8 seed right now. So yeah, like we mentioned before, Ole Miss just looked nothing like even a playoff caliber team for most of the year, but now they're a little hot right now. And like you said, it's a bit of a heat check here. Can you prove it 2 weeks in a row against a high caliber squad? It should be extremely entertaining.
Yeah, and the last series that I want to check in on is number 23 Oklahoma at number 6 Texas Tech. Texas Tech all of a sudden looks like potentially the best team in the Big 12 after sweeping Oklahoma State. After they were kind of down for a while, losing a lot of midweek. So even though they were getting weekend series wins, it didn't seem great. It just seemed like they were barely pulling their own weight and somehow getting weekend series wins. And Oklahoma, on the other hand, has just kind of under the radar put together a pretty solid season, finally showing up in rankings. But it was a while before that happened, and they were still getting series wins or being very competitive with the top caliber teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, this is a series here where Texas Tech needs to lock it in order to get back into that hosting conversation, and then Oklahoma, on the other hand, is toward it at the bottom of the top 25 the last couple weeks, but a big series win on the road here and a good performance in the Big 12 tourney could potentially propel them up into the top 16, maybe in hosting conversations. So once again, just a lot of implications in these series this week. It's going to be an extremely entertaining week of college baseball. Gonna have eyes on a lot of games, and we should be in for a fun weekend overall.
Yeah, this paired with the conference tournament next weekend should just bring a lot of excitement all over the place and just so much in the air at this moment with only a few teams really settled into those top 8 spots. I mean, anybody could take a regional seed right now. It feels like there's just so much ambiguity. But yeah, any other teams you want to touch on for what's coming up this next weekend?
No, I think we're good.
Sweet. Well, we can wrap it up now. Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed, we would greatly appreciate a like and subscribe for more weekly college baseball content.